This video is going to get you started using Anki. Anki is by far my most favorite study tool, and what it is it's a flashcard program that has way more features, way easier to use than any other flashcard program that I've tried. And secondly, they call it intelligent flashcards because Anki has a feature where as you go through your cards, you'll be able to tell the program how well you knew the information on each card. Then based on your feedback, Anki will reprioritize your cards. So the cards that you are really struggling with, it will show you all the time, whereas the cards that you've already mastered, it will only show you once in a while. This way, you're really able to hone in on your weak points and you spend your study time most efficiently. So why do I like to use flashcards more than traditional study methods like reading or taking notes over and over? The reason why is because of something called spaced repetition and forgetting curves. So first of all, let me show you what a forgetting curve looks like. So what we have here is the amount of information retained plotted against time. And this 100% represents, right after you finish reading your chapter or the moment that you're leaving lecture, you really remember all of the information. But studies have shown that after only about 1 hour, you will have already forgotten over half the information. And after a few days, you'll barely remember anything at all. And you can ask yourself if this is true if you just remember any time that maybe you waited until the last minute to study for a test, and then you spent all night cramming all the information into your brain. Even if you were able to do well on that test, I guarantee you after a few hours or a day or so, you barely remembered any of that information. And if you ever needed to recall it again, you would have to learn it all over again. So this is obviously not ideal. And the best way that I found to combat this is through something called spaced repetition. So what I'm going to show you is the same forgetting curve, but now overlaid on top of it, we have a learning curve that represents spaced repetition. And the idea behind spaced repetition is that you need to let a little bit of time go by between reviewing your material. And then if you do this, every time you review, you'll forget less and less. So here's the normal forgetting curve, but now we've added one review where we remind ourselves of all the information. And you can see on the second forgetting curve, it's not quite as steep. So we really forget things at a much slower rate. And after a third review, now it's even less steep, and you can see each time we're retaining more and more of the information. And, a funny example is, have you ever forgotten how to tie your shoes? Well, no, because you have done spaced repetition of tying your shoes your entire life, so now you can tie them in your sleep. So obviously, this principle of spaced repetition really works if you have the discipline to follow it. And why Anki is so great is because it really helps minimize the amount of discipline needed. You can download the app on your phone, you can take it with you. It's very easy. Sometimes I do Anki cards while I play around on Facebook or watch Netflix on my computer. You can really study anytime, and with the higher level of efficiency, studying doesn't seem so daunting. Now, whenever you're ready to get started, go ahead and go to this address that you see in the left corner and click the download button. Then grab the version that will work with your computer. And after you have it installed, this is the screen that you should see. Now, the first thing that you want to do is make an account so that you can save your decks and your flashcards. So to make an account, you just click this sync button. This will pop up asking you for your ID. You don't have one yet, so you want to click sign up. It'll take you to a screen where you can make an account. Then you come back here and you log in. Okay, so now you've made your account and you've logged in and you're ready to get started. So this is the Anki home screen. Right here in this column, there will be a list of decks. Right now we only have one. This add button lets you make new flashcards, and browse lets you see all your old flashcards if you want to edit them or delete some. You also have this deck settings button, which I already told you Anki will reprioritize your flashcards based on how well you know them. So these settings allow you to change the way Anki behaves based on your feedback. Right now, I definitely recommend just leaving the default settings as they are, but as you play with Anki and you become more comfortable with it, you might want to personalize these settings later on. Finally, the sync button. After you've made your account, then anytime you make cards, you definitely want to hit the sync button so that you can save all your cards. And then if you have the app downloaded on your phone or you have Anki on more than one computer, it will sync your cards throughout all your devices. Okay, so I usually make one deck for every class. If you want to add a new deck, you just go to create deck. But to rename, you click the little gear and then just go to rename. And I'm going to go ahead and call this one biology. Okay, so now we're ready to actually make a card. So let's go to add. This is the add card screen. Up here you have the type of card that you want to make, which I'll talk a little bit about the different types. Over here you have which deck you're adding the card to. Here you have the field for the front of your card and the back of your card. These buttons let you change the appearance of the text, and then these buttons do more advanced things that I'll talk about later. Another really big feature is the tagging function. Tags are basically like adding hashtags to your flashcards. So after a while, you might have hundreds or even thousands of flashcards, and maybe you just want to study a subsection of those. You'll be able to tell Anki, hey, go and grab only the cards that have this tag or that tag on them. So usually I add tags that tell me which chapter of the book I'm in. So maybe biology chapter 1, or sometimes I'll add tags that talk about the topic. So maybe right now I'm studying the cell, so I'll add biology chapter 1 and the cell as my tags. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the different types of cards. So basic is just how it sounds. You have a front of your card and a back of your card. Whatever you put in the front will be what Anki shows you, and then you're trying to recall the information on the back. So let's go ahead and make our first card. And let's say we're studying right now mitochondria. And we want to remember that that's the powerhouse of the cell. So I have my card, I'll go ahead and click add, and then I'm done. You can also do a little bit more advanced version with using optional reversed card. So let's say again that we're making our mitochondria card. But we want to try to remember it both ways. So sometimes we want to see mitochondria and remember that that's the powerhouse, but maybe you want to make another card that shows you this powerhouse of the cell and you're trying to remember that it's the mitochondria. Kind of deeper learning. So if you have optional reversed card selected, you'll see this field called add reverse. If you type anything in this field at all, then whenever you hit add, it's going to generate 2 cards instead of 1. So one card will show you mitochondria and you're trying to remember what's written on the back, and the second card will show you what's on the back and you're trying to remember what's on the front. So I definitely recommend to just make this option your default screen, because if you don't type anything in the add reverse box, then it will just give you a basic card. But you might as well leave this up here because it gives you the option to make 2 cards at once. Okay, now let's see how we actually study with Anki. So I'll close this. I added some other flashcards earlier, so right now it showed me I have 4 new cards that I can study. So let me click this deck, click study, and here we go. So it's showing you the card, you try to remember what goes with the mitochondria. Whenever you're done, you hit show answer, and there you go, it shows you your information. Now, this is really the big part of Anki, the intelligent flashcard part. So you see down here you have a couple different choices, and each choice has a time over it. The time is how soon Anki will show you that card again. So if you didn't know the card at all and you want to see it again within 1 minute, you would hit again. Maybe you kind of knew the information, but you weren't very confident with it, you would hit good, which will show you within 10 minutes. Or if you're just expert of the mitochondria, you know everything, you don't need to waste your time studying this card, then you can hit easy and Anki will show you the card within 4 days. You can go in the settings and change these values, but these are the default recommended values that Anki suggests. Also, the time values on the cards will change depending on how many times you've seen that card. So right now, if I tell Anki, okay, go ahead and put this card as good, show me again within 10 minutes, then the next time I get to this card, good will have a value of less than 1 day. So if I select good twice, the first time it'll show me the card within 10 minutes, but the next time it will show me the following day. So that's how the spaced repetition works. So let's tell Anki, for example, that this card I didn't remember at all, and I want to see it again within 1 minute. Now it shows me my next card. Let's say that this card I already knew really well, so I'll tell it easy, and it will go away for 4 days. Now let's say this card I want to mark as good because I knew it, but not very, very well. Also, this card I know as good. Now here we go. Here's a card that I've already marked as good 1 time. So now you see good now has a value of 1 day. So by hitting good again, I'm not going to see this card until the following day. Also, this card I've hit good on at least 1 time, so now it also shows me as 1 day. But let's say the first time I got it right, and the second time I didn't remember, so I'm going to hit again. Now this is the only card I have left, so it's going to show me it again right away. Let's tell it good, and then again it's the only card I have left, so let's say good, and now I'm done with this deck. So at midnight, my deck will regenerate itself with all of the cards, and Anki will remember my answer to the cards, and next time I study, the time frames will be even longer. So maybe next time good instead of 1 day would be 3 days or 5 days, or you can change those values to whatever you want it to be. Okay, I want to show you how to make a couple different types of cards. So let's go back to add, and I'm going to show you how to make Cloze and image occlusion cards. Let's start with Cloze. So what Cloze does is it'll generate a card where you see a string of text, but certain parts of the text are blocked out. So let's say that I'm studying plants, and I want to remember these 2 structures. Xylem transports water, and phloem transports glucose. So what I can do is I can highlight a word and go over here and click the Cloze button, and you see this word now says C1 and it's enclosed in these little brackets. What this is going to do is it's going to generate a card for me that shows me this whole sentence, but with this word blocked out. And even better, you can make multiple cards off of one screen. So let's say I want one where I remember xylem transports water. Let's say I want to make one for phloem. So you see now when I clicked it again, it's enclosed, but it says C2 for card 2. And let's say I want to have a card where instead of remembering the structure, I remember what's transported. So I can make 4 cards very, very rapidly. And let me go ahead and study these and show you how it looks. So you see now I have my 4 new cards. And here we go. So here I'm trying to remember, xylem. This time it's phloem. I can remember what the xylem transports, and I can remember what phloem transports. So literally I just made 4 flashcards in only a few seconds. And let me just show you one other thing. So maybe instead of making 4 separate cards, you want to remember multiple words at one time. So you can highlight, let's say highlight xylem, and we highlight phloem, you can go in here and change this C2 to a C1, and now it will show you this whole sentence but with both of these words blocked out. So let me show you how that looks. So this was the card we just made, and you see now you're trying to remember both structures at one time. Okay, and now the last type of card that I want to show you how to make is really the big one, like the main feature that Anki has that sets it apart from other flashcard apps. And that's called image occlusion. So by default, image occlusion is not built into Anki. It's an add-on that someone made. So let me show you how to add it. You're going to want to go to Google and type image occlusion Anki, and this first link that comes up will be the page for image occlusion add-on. It kind of walks you through some features and how to use it, but at the bottom of the page, you're going to see this download code. You want to copy this code and then go back to Anki, go to Tools, go to Add-ons, and then go to Browse and Install. Here, you paste the code and hit OK, and Anki will automatically install image occlusion for you. Okay, so when you're ready to make your card, you go to Add, come down here and pick Image Occlusion Enhanced, and you'll see this screen. Now, what Image Occlusion Enhanced is used for is anything that requires labels, or if you want to generate a lot of cards for a picture at one time without redrawing the picture each time. So let me go ahead and just show you an example. So I'm going to click this button to add an image. And let's say I have some images that I found from the internet, but let's say I'm trying to remember all of the parts of the skull for my anatomy class. So it's going to upload my picture here, and you select this box tool, and you can make a card for each of these labels at one time. So all you do is you draw a box around the part of the card that you want to hide. So I'm going to just draw maybe 5 or 6 boxes here. Okay, down here you have some different options. You want to click Hide All, Reveal One, and that's going to generate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different cards, where each card is quizzing me for whatever I've hidden. So you see it says 6 cards added. So let me go and show you how this one will look. Close, close. Okay, you see I have 6 new cards. I'm going to go ahead and study them, and whichever one is highlighted red is the one that it's asking me for. So this was a coronal suture, and I'll tell it that that was easy, and it's just going to go through all of these at one time. So you can imagine that if you wanted to make flashcards for all the parts of the skull, number one, if you did it by hand, you would have to draw the skull over and over and over for each card. And number two, you'd have to draw all of your labels over and over. You can literally make hundreds of flashcards with image occlusion in a matter of seconds. This is by far, to me, the best feature of Anki. Now, let me show you one other thing. You don't have to be restricted to only using image occlusion for pictures. You might want to also just use it for information, like a traditional flashcard. So let me add another one. And this time, let's say that I'm trying to remember polyatomic ions. So I found this polyatomic ion chart online, but you could even make a table like this in Microsoft Word. And then let's say that you want to just block out the names of the ions. So in this way, you're not having to constantly type out all of the information on the cards, so it lets you be even more efficient. So right now I just made another 6 cards for all of the ions, and it took me only a few seconds. So let me go ahead and go back to study, and here we go. So now I'm trying to remember NH4 is ammonium. Okay, that was the introduction to Anki. That was definitely enough to get you started. I gave you about 90% of what I use on a day-to-day basis. Anki has a ton of more features and add-ons, and they're constantly updating. So if you try this tool out and you like it, then I definitely recommend that you look for other tutorials on YouTube or go to their website and explore all the different add-ons. But I promise you, if you use Anki, you'll learn faster, you'll spend less time studying, and overall it will just be a much more enjoyable experience.